Remember when your aunt's basement rec room smelled like pineapple glaze and onion soup mix, and the coffee table groaned under platters of toothpick towers and cheese balls shaped like wreaths? There was a time in Canada when Christmas appetizers weren't just food. They were tiny edible declarations that you knew how to entertain, that you'd read the latest Chatelaine, that you could make canned salmon look fancy. Today we're diving into 20 Canadian Christmas appetizers from the 1970s that have disappeared. Whether you sneaked a mini quiche off the good china, watched your grandma unmold a jiggly salmon ring, or still remember the taste of curry egg pinwheels at church potlucks, you're about to take a delicious trip down memory lane. Which ones do you remember? Let's unwrap these retro bites. Pineapple ham cheddar party picks, basement rec room in Scarborough, orange shag carpet, kids weaving between card tables covered in plastic Christmas cloths. On every table sits a cut glass dish jammed with toothpicks, holding neon little towers of color. These were bite-sized skewers of tinned pineapple chunks, processed ham, and sharp cheddar, all brushed with a sweet, sticky glaze. This kind of sweet and savory Hawaiian flavor showed up constantly in 70s North American party spreads, and Canadian hosts copied it straight from magazine features and supermarket pamphlets that promised easy entertaining. Making them was simple. You'd cut cubes of ham and cheddar to match the pineapple tidbits, stack them on frilled toothpicks, then brush everything with a mix of brown sugar and bottled barbecue or tangy sauce. Some hosts served them chilled, others ran them under a low broiler for a minute to caramelize the glaze. Either way, they got piled into crystal dishes or Corelle bowls and set out on every surface. Cranberry port cheese ball. Wreath your aunt's split-level home in Burnaby. The dining room sideboard holds the fancy cheese, a ring-shaped cheese ball studded with bright red cranberries sitting on a wooden board like a festive crown. This was cream cheese and aged cheddar mixed with port wine or sherry shaped into a wreath, rolled in chopped nuts and fresh parsley, then dotted with cranberries for Christmas color. Cheese balls and cheese logs are constantly flagged as classic 70s appetizers and have made retro comeback lists in Canadian magazines over and over again. The recipe was straightforward. Mix softened cream cheese with shredded sharp cheddar. Add a generous splash of fortified wine, a few dashes of Worcestershire, and a spoonful of onion powder. Chill the mixture until firm, shape it into a ring with your hands or a mold. Then roll the whole thing in chopped pecans and parsley. Finally, press dried or fresh cranberries into the surface like little jewels. Serve with Ritz crackers, Premium Plus, or Breton crackers, still in their old-school boxes. Smoked salmon mousse, Christmas ring, West Coast condo, rain. Drumming on the balcony windows. On the coffee table sits a pale pink ring of salmon mousse with fresh parsley arranged in the center like a tiny Christmas tree lot. This was a light, whipped mousse made from canned or smoked salmon, cream cheese, lemon juice, and fresh dill, all poured into a ring mold and chilled overnight. Dairy farmers of Canada and other groups still share smoked salmon mousse canapés today, reflecting how long this style has been part of Canadian entertaining, especially on both coasts where salmon was always accessible. To make it, you'd soften gelatin in lemon juice, then blend it with flaked salmon, cream cheese, mayonnaise, and plenty of dill. Pour the mixture into an oiled ring mold and chill overnight until set. The next day, you'd unmold it onto a floral plate by dipping the mold briefly in warm water. Slices got served on buttered toast points or cucumber rounds, sometimes crowned with a single caper for sophistication. Curried egg salad, pinwheel sandwiches, church basement in Regina. Long folding tables covered with mismatched plates and aluminum coffee urns bubbling away. On platters down the center, neat spirals of bread pinwheels with pale yellow filling showing through the swirls. These were white bread rolls filled with egg salad laced with curry powder, a nod to exotic flavors entering Western holiday menus during that era. Egg salad pinwheels still get called out as retro Christmas appetizers in modern recipe blogs, a reminder of how sandwich-based canapés dominated potluck culture. Making them required patience. You'd trim the crusts off white sandwich bread, roll each slice flat with a rolling pin, then spread a thick layer of egg salad across the surface. The egg salad itself was simple. Chopped hard-boiled eggs mixed with mayonnaise, a generous spoonful of curry powder, and finely chopped green onion for bite. Roll the bread into tight logs, wrap in wax paper, and chill for at least 2 hours. Slice into bite-sized spirals and arrange them in circles on Corelle platters. Cocktail rye squares with old cheddar and dill pickle office Christmas party in downtown Toronto. Someone's brought the rye thing again, and within 15 minutes the tray is empty except for crumbs and toothpicks. These were tiny rye bread slices, toasted until crispy, topped with a thick smear of seasoned cheese spread and a thin sliver of dill pickle. Cocktail rye canapés show up again and again in 60s and 70s party recipe collections, with that strong hostess starter kit vibe that said, you knew what you were doing. The method was dead simple, but effective. Mix grated sharp Canadian cheddar with mayonnaise and a full packet of dry onion soup mix until you have a thick, spreadable paste. Spread it generously on pumpernickel or rye party slices. Top each one with a thin slice of dill pickle. Then slide the whole tray under the broiler just until the cheese bubbles and browns at the edges. Serve them warm on metal. Baking sheets lined with festive paper napkins. Telling and preparing this video took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now, back to the video. Mini tourtière tartlets francophone family gathering in Trois-Rivières. The big tourtière is waiting for midnight mass, but a platter of mini versions hits the coffee table first, and relatives circle like gulls. These were Quebec's iconic spiced meat pie, shrunk down into 1 or 2 bite tartlets, perfect for cocktail hour. Tourtière itself is a deeply rooted Quebec Christmas tradition, so mini tartlets were an easy way to bring that flavor to the appetizer table without committing to a full pie before the main meal. The filling was simple but aromatic: ground pork and sometimes beef, sautéed with diced onion, then seasoned heavily with cinnamon, clove, and allspice. Spoon the filling into frozen tart shells. Bake until the pastry turns golden and the meat browns at the edges. Serve warm with tiny spoons of ketchup or homemade chutney on the side for dipping. Crêtons and mustard canapés, Boxing Day brunch in Quebec City. Someone sets out a simple plate of toast squares, spread with something beige, peppery, and deeply savory. This was Crêtons, a traditional Quebec pork spread normally eaten at breakfast, repurposed in the 70s as an easy canapé. It brought a very regional, homey flavor to otherwise fancy cocktail spreads, grounding the party in local tradition even when everything else felt imported from magazine pages. Crêtons are made by simmering ground pork with onions, garlic, and spices like cinnamon and clove until everything breaks down into a thick, spreadable paste. For canapés, you'd spread it on thin baguette slices or toast points, top each one with a small dab of Dijon or bright yellow prepared mustard, and finish with a slice of sweet pickle or pickled onion, often prepped hours ahead and kept in Tupperware containers on the cold porch until serving time. Mushroom and sherry vol au vent, holiday open house in Halifax. Guests in wide lapel suits and satin dresses balance china saucers while nibbling on flaky pastries that crumble with every bite. These were puff pastry shells filled with creamy mushrooms cooked in butter, garlic, and a generous splash of sherry. Very continental, very sophisticated. Vol au vents, quiches, and similar French-inspired appetizers became emblematic of 70s cocktail culture across North America, showing that the host had watched Julia Child or subscribed to Gourmet. The shells were store-bought frozen puff pastry, baked until they puffed up into golden cups. The filling required more care. Sauté sliced mushrooms with diced onions in butter until soft. Add minced garlic and fresh parsley. Pour in cream and a good measure of fortified wine, then simmer until thick. Spoon the filling into the shells just before serving so they stay crisp. Some hosts top them with grated Parmesan and ran them under the broiler for extra color. Pineapple cottage cheese Christmas salad, mold prairie farmhouse kitchen. Grandma brings out a green glass casserole dish filled with pale, wobbly cubes dusted with nutmeg, each one trembling slightly as the dish hits the table. This was a salad made from cottage cheese, crushed pineapple, mini marshmallows, and gelatin, poured into a pan, chilled overnight, then cut into neat squares and served at the start of the meal. Gelatin salads, often layered or ring-shaped, were a hallmark of 60s and 70s holiday tables across Canada and the United States. Making it meant mixing lime or lemon gelatin powder with cottage cheese and a can of crushed pineapple, sometimes tinting the mixture greener with a few drops of food coloring for festive effect. Pour it into a square pan, chill until firm, then slice into cubes. Serve each cube on a crisp lettuce leaf with a maraschino cherry perched on top for color and a touch of sweetness. Green Goddess dip with crinkle-cut veg, new suburban kitchen, avocado green fridge humming in the corner. A wooden Lazy Susan spins slowly on the counter, celery sticks, carrot spears, radishes, and broccoli florets circling a central bowl of pale green dip. This was Green Goddess dip, a herby mayo and sour cream blend tinted green with parsley, chives, and tarragon. Inspired by the American Green Goddess salad dressing craze, it was quickly adopted by Canadian hosts who wanted something that felt health-conscious but still rich and indulgent. Paired with fresh crudités, it checked both boxes. To make it, blend mayonnaise, sour cream, a small amount of anchovy paste for depth, minced garlic, fresh lemon juice, and a generous handful of fresh herbs. Chill the mixture until thick and the flavors meld together. Serve in a pottery or glass bowl, surrounded by carefully arranged veggie spears that had been cut with a crinkle knife for visual interest. Smoked oyster and cream cheese. Ritz bites. Snowy night in Winnipeg. The wind howls outside while inside. A silver tray passes by, stacked with buttery crackers crowned by shiny, smoky little bites. These were smoked oysters from a can, each one pressed into a dollop of flavored cream cheese on a Ritz cracker. Smoked oyster hors d'oeuvres are repeatedly referenced as classic retro appetizers in recipe videos and holiday collections, a reminder of when canned seafood was considered fancy. Making them was almost embarrassingly easy. Soften cream cheese with fresh lemon juice and a few drops of hot sauce for kick, then pipe or spoon it onto Ritz crackers or similar buttery rounds. Top each dollop with a single smoked oyster, and maybe a paper-thin sliver of green onion for color. Serve on silver or faux silver trays as the grown-up snack, the one kids avoided and adults demolished. Clam and onion soup mix dip in a bread bowl hockey game on TV, Leafs or Habs on the screen. Relatives yelling at the refs while demolishing a huge round loaf sitting on the coffee table, tearing off chunks and scooping up dip. This was a ridiculously simple concoction. Sour cream, canned minced clams, and a full packet of dry onion soup mix, all stirred together and served inside a hollowed-out bread bowl. Onion soup mix dips were a defining party staple across North America in the 60s and 70s, appearing at every gathering from backyard barbecues to formal Christmas parties. Mix sour cream with a bit of mayonnaise for richness, stir in the canned clams with their juice, add the soup mix, then chill for at least an hour to let the flavors develop. Hollow out a round sourdough or rye loaf, fill it with the dip, and surround it with torn bread chunks and ripple chips for scooping. Ham and asparagus bread roll-ups, potluck in a school gym in Saskatoon, plastic wrap coming off trays of neatly lined roll-ups, each one sliced to show the pale green asparagus spiral inside. These were flattened slices of white bread rolled around canned asparagus spears and thin sliced ham, spread with a creamy mixture, then sliced into logs and served cold or lightly toasted. Bread-based roll-ups like these appear throughout mid-century canapé books, offering a way to repurpose sandwich ingredients as fancy finger food. To make them, trim the crusts off white sandwich bread, roll each slice flat with a rolling pin, then spread it with a mix of cream cheese and prepared mustard. Lay down a strip of deli ham and a single canned asparagus spear, roll everything tightly, then chill until firm. Slice into half-inch rounds, and for extra flair, brush with melted butter and toast lightly under the broiler. Stuffed cherry tomato holiday bites. Grandma's best china platter, the one from her Eaton's wedding registry. Little red cherry tomatoes lined up like Christmas ornaments, each one filled with something creamy. These were cherry tomatoes hollowed out and filled with herbed cream cheese, tuna salad, or deviled egg mixture. Recipes for stuffed tomatoes and other vegetable canapés were common in mid-century Canadian cookbooks and women's magazines, part of the push to make vegetables fancy and party-worthy. Making them required patience. Slice the tops off cherry tomatoes, scoop out the seeds with a small spoon or melon baller, salt the insides lightly, and let them drain upside down on paper towels. Fill each shell using a piping bag fitted with a star tip, then chill to let the filling firm up. Finish with a sprinkle of paprika or fresh parsley for color. Salmon and cucumber party coins condo party in Vancouver. On the balcony, you can smell the ocean mixed with December rain. Inside, delicate cucumber coins topped with pink salmon spread cover a glass platter. These were thin cucumber slices topped with a rosette of salmon spread, keeping things lighter amid all the pastry and cheese on the buffet. Salmon canapés are a long-standing favorite in Canadian entertaining, especially on the coasts where fresh and smoked salmon have always been accessible. The spread was made from canned or smoked salmon, blended with cream cheese, fresh lemon juice, plenty of dill, and a touch of prepared horseradish for bite. Pipe the mixture onto salted cucumber rounds using a star tip to make it look fancy. Finish each one with a few capers or a tiny sprig of fresh dill. Mini quiche Lorraine bites. New Year's Eve in a Toronto high-rise. The fancy neighbors from the 20th floor show up with something they saw on a French cooking show, and everyone crowds around to try it. These were bite-sized quiches filled with sautéed bacon, diced onion, and Swiss or cheddar cheese in mini tart shells. Quiche became a poster child for 70s entertaining, featured heavily in retro recipe roundups, and always served at parties that wanted to feel a bit more sophisticated. The custard was simple: eggs beaten with cream, mixed with cooked bacon and onion, seasoned with salt, pepper, and a pinch of nutmeg. Pour into mini pre-baked tart shells and bake until just set, with the tops barely golden. Serve warm on heated platters, sometimes garnished with a tiny sprig of parsley. Cheddar and onion pull-apart party loaf. Snowy cottage weekend in Muskoka. One massive loaf sits in the middle of the pine coffee table, and everyone pulls off gooey, cheese-filled chunks without bothering with plates or napkins. This was a round or oval loaf sliced in a crosshatch pattern, stuffed with shredded cheese and chopped green onions, wrapped in foil, and baked until everything inside melted together. Pull-apart breads built on the same share-and-tear idea as cheese fondue and party loaves that dominated 70s entertaining. To make it, cut deep slits into the loaf in both directions without slicing all the way through the bottom crust. Fill each gap with a mixture of shredded sharp cheddar, chopped green onions, and garlic butter. Wrap the whole thing tightly in aluminum foil and bake until the cheese melts and the bread toasts at the edges. Serve it right in the foil on a wooden board, letting people tear off pieces while it's still hot. Deviled ham and relish ribbon sandwiches. afternoon ladies' tea in Hamilton, three-tier silver serving trays holding pastel ribboned sandwiches, each layer a different color, each bite a different flavor. These were thin sandwiches layered with different fillings, including deviled ham and bright green relish, then sliced into strips to show off the colored layers. Ribbon sandwiches were a bridge between older British tea traditions and the more casual 70s cocktail scene, still elegant but easier to manage than full tea service. Making them meant preparing several fillings. Deviled ham spread, egg salad, and cream cheese with relish were the classics. Spread each filling on a slice of crustless white bread, stack the slices with fillings alternating, press gently, wrap tightly in damp tea towels, and chill. For hours, trim the edges to make everything neat, then slice into long fingers. The ends became the cook's tester snacks. Herb butter radish rosette canapés, prairie farmhouse table, early afternoon light coming through lace curtains. Someone's taken the time to carve radishes into little flowers for the Christmas tray. Each one perfect. These were thin baguette slices spread with herb butter and topped with carved radish roses and flaky sea salt. Vegetable garnishes like radish roses were a classic show-off skill in mid-century home entertaining, proof that the host cared enough to make things beautiful. Radishes got carved with a small paring knife, then soaked in ice water to make the petals bloom open. Meanwhile, butter was whipped with fresh herbs, lemon zest, and a pinch of salt. Spread the butter on toasted baguette slices or crackers, place a radish rose on each one, and serve immediately so everything stayed crisp. Some versions got a brush of white vinegar or a sprinkle of fresh chives. Ice wine jelly and brie canapés. Late 70s, maybe early 80s. Niagara region. A wine enthusiast relative shows up with something new. Tiny toasts with soft brie and a jewel-like golden jelly on top. These were Melba toast, or thin baguette slices, layered with room-temperature brie, and a small spoonful of ice wine jelly, tying into Canada's emerging ice wine scene. Canadian ice wine was first produced in the 1970s and entered commercial shops later in the decade before exploding in popularity through the 80s and 90s. The jelly was made by reducing local ice wine with sugar and a bit of gelatin until it reached a thick, spreadable consistency. Let the brie warm to room temperature so it spreads easily. Layer it on toasted bread. Then top with a careful dab of the sparkling golden jelly. Serve on simple white plates that let the colors shine. Before you go, if this video brought back memories or taught you something new about Canadian food history, hit that like button. It really helps us keep digging up these forgotten stories. Subscribe if you want more nostalgia trips through Canada's past. We've got plenty more where this came from.